Hey there, CPO here, and I'm doing a quick video, obviously because I'm too lazy to transfer my thoughts into written text. It takes me longer to do that than it does just to knock out a quick video. So a question came up in a Facebook discussion about 4-point harnesses for the Jeep. And knowing that I actually own a 4-point harness, a pair of them for the front seats, and a harness bar, my name came up in the discussion. So I wanted to pipe in because I've done a lot of research in this area, and I've talked to a lot of people, and I have an opinion. So I thought I would share it. So here's what's going on, right? So the 4-point harness for the Jeep. First of all, yes, I have a 4-point harness. I have Pro Armor. And then I've got a rock hard 4x4 rear harness bar that goes behind the seats. So the 4-point harness and the harness bar related, but two different problems associated with those. First of all, if you're going to run a 4-point harness, you have to have a harness bar. At least in the Jeep, right? And we're talking Jeep Wrangler here. You really need to have that bar, number one, for stability, number two, for the proper mounting points of the shoulder straps on the harness bar. So, and then you have to install the harness correctly. But this, I'm not going to go into all of that right in this video. But I want to talk about a little bit of the research I've done. So I did some polls on the internet, on Facebook, on various forums about people who have been involved in crashes and whether or not they have seat harnesses. I did a lot of research into Department of Transportation crash statistics. I'm a former law enforcement officer, so I know that there's a lot of statistics reported with crashes, whether seatbelts are worn, whether or not there was an ejection, whether or not there was a fatality. Unfortunately, the data does not go granular enough to decide what type of seatbelt. It's a checkbox seatbelt. So if somebody were actually wearing a harness in a crash, it wouldn't be reflected in that data. So I did do a lot of research into that. I watched a lot of videos from sled testing of different types of seat belts and harness systems. I watched lots of rollover crash video, and I spoke to manufacturers of seat harnesses. Here's what I came up with, right? Take it or leave it. This is my opinion. I'm not an expert. I don't even try and play one on TV, but I do think through a lot of things before I make decisions. Maybe I think through things after I make decisions, but that's beside the point. So here's what I do know. The problem with a 4-point harness in a vehicle, any vehicle that is not a race car, first of all, you will rarely find a 4-point harness in a race car. First, think about that. The reason is because 4-point harnesses, the way they're built, cause a problem called submarining. So you strap your seat belt, the waist belt down, and then you cinch the shoulder straps down. And what you're doing is basically putting yourself in a position where all the pressure is coming on your shoulders, and then in a frontal high-speed collision, the opportunity, and this, you can't mimic this without a lot of G-loads, which is why it's important to do sled testing. And like I said, I watched a lot of those videos, crash test videos, is the seatbelt webbing will actually stretch quite a bit. The seat cushion will compress quite a bit. Your body will deform quite a bit. And what's going to happen is you're going to slip underneath your seatbelt. That's called submarining, right? And you might have seen this if you've ever been in a crash. You might have found yourself sort of a little bit submarined because of just the sheer force of the crash. So 4-point harnesses are bad in that regard because the way they hold the body securely, basically flat against the seat, and then when you get into the crash, you would think that you would just roll forward and everything would hold you. But in high enough speeds, what they've found is you actually slip down and under. That's why they have the 5-point harness, which has a strap that goes in between your legs. That's an anti-submarine strap, or you can buy a separate anti-submarine strap for a 4-point harness. So if we're talking about avoiding the submarine strap and just going a straight 4-point harness, it turns out they're not very safe in a high-speed frontal sort of traffic collision situation. Now you can get a 5-point, which either you're going to have to deal with a seat issue. Then you start getting into 5-point harnesses, which is why people default to 4-point on street cars. Is if you want a 5-point, you're going to need to put a hole in your seat and come up in the middle of your seat, or buy a seat designed, which would be my recommendation for that application. The other thing is when you strap yourself down to your seat with a harness, even though they will stretch more than you can ever imagine, what then you do, let's assume you have a 5-point harness. The other thing you'll notice in racing environments is they have a little strap that basically handles making sure that your head doesn't snap forward. If your body's held stationary and your head isn't, right? You're not wearing a helmet. You don't have a strap. I forget the safety strap that they put on helmets in the racing community. Then you risk having problems with that. So, I mean, we start talking about adding harnesses, and then all these other complicating factors come into play. The other thing I'll talk about is the harness bar in the back, right? So that becomes this big metal bar in the back seat. Now, if you never have a backseat passenger, good on you. Not a problem. My concern is I bought my vehicle as a daily driver. It's my family car, and I often have people in the back, including my son often, or his friends. What I didn't want to do is have an unsafe bar back there for them. You can get the bar padding. Rock Hard 4x4 sells a padded sleeve for that bar, but the reality of it is it's a really tight fit back there, and you're putting a bar, 12 inches, 18 inches tops in front of somebody. Again, not safe at highway speeds or what have you. Now, everything I can find about having a 4-point harness suggests that in an off-road environment, particularly the way we roll in the Jeep community, it's probably great for just slow rollover accidents or those kind of wheeling rollovers and flops. I did like the way when I was adventure wheeling, high speed wheeling, how it would secure my body to a point where I wouldn't bounce around. I literally, with a regular seatbelt, I end up with seatbelt rash from bouncing, and the harness really made a difference, which is why I got the harness. But at anything at speeds, particularly highway travel, they're really less safe, actually, than your regular 3-point seatbelt. If you think about it, a lot of money and time and studies have gone into the seatbelt system we have in our vehicles, and there's a reason all the vehicles have a 3-point, besides the fact it's convenience, right? Part of it is convenience versus safety. So the safest thing may not be the most convenient, and the most convenient may not be the safest. But the 3-point harness is sort of the best compromise of all of them. So speaking of that, the other issue, and the big issue for me, is Department of Transportation approval. DOT certified. So imagine this story. You're driving along on the highway. You've got a daily driver. You're wearing a 4-point harness. You get into a crash. It's not even your fault. Maybe you're injured. Maybe your passenger's injured. Go to the hospital. And the insurance company refuses to pay your medical bills because you were not wearing a DOT-approved safety safety belt. So think about that, right? Besides the fact it's illegal to to modify the seatbelt technically. But insurance companies kind of have a knack for not paying when they can find a way to make that easy. And I didn't want to put my family at risk of, something happening and then the insurance company saying, hey, you've modified your vehicle, it's no longer safe, we're not paying for anything. Now, I don't plan to get into an accident either, but hey, guess what? I have to be prepared for that. So having a seatbelt system that is DOT approved turns out to be, in my mind, a pretty important factor to consider. Even if you got into an accident and you weren't injured, but somebody else was, your insurance company would be expected to cover that because you were the responsible party, let's say. Well, they may still not cover that even if you're not the one injured because of your modifications to your vehicle. So just think about it. I'm not saying it's going to be that way or not. But you have the fact that they're less safe on the road. I think off-road, I think, I have a tendency to want to put mine in for off-road conditions when I'm out wheeling. It does restrict your movement, so sometimes it's harder because I can't lean forward because I'm strapped in. So you have to keep that in mind. But overall, it's a very comfortable experience for me. But on-road, they're less safe, no doubt. A traditional 4-point harness is not safe. And it is not approved, it's not legal. So think about those things. And then I want to tell you there is an option, and I haven't used this option yet. It doesn't solve all of the problems, but it does solve the legalities and the safety. So Schroth Racing and Takata, right? They are seatbelt harness manufacturers. They're well known in the tuner community and the racing community. Schroth, and I mentioned them both because Schroth actually makes Takata. So I spent a lot of time on the phone with a Schroth representative talking to them about seatbelt technology, and in particular their anti-submarine technology. They have a line of harnesses designed for street use that are the ASM. And that's these guys here, the Rally 4, the Rally 3, and the Rally Cross. The Rally Cross is the 4-point, more traditional style. Those are street legal, and they have what's called anti-submarine technology. What that is basically a folded section of the seatbelt, of the strap, that is the webbing, that is sewn together, and it's designed to break free in case of an accident. So remember, when you have a 4-point harness and it's strapped tight to your chest, keeping your body flat, your tendency is to roll down and underneath the seatbelt. The reason that doesn't happen as often in a 3-point harness, you've got the strap coming here, right, is because your body's allowed to turn, and then that locks your hips into place and doesn't allow them to submarine. Now, it's possible to submarine. Plenty of videos talking about submarining in a 3-point harness too. So, but it's less likely if your body has a chance to twist. So what they've done is they've taken that concept and they've made a breakaway shoulder section of the webbing that whenever you get into an accident, as you push forward with enough G's, that breaks away, your body then twists, and then now you are, your hips kind of lock into place and don't submarine under the waist strap. So that's why those are street legal. They're DOT approved. They've been tested, sled tested, crash tested, all of that stuff. They are expensive. Quite frankly, why I don't have one right now. But you can see Schroth and Takata. Like I said, Takata and Schroth are made by the same people. I didn't know that till I was talking to the Schroth guys. Like, yeah, we make Takata. And then when you look at the verbiage and all that, you can tell they use the same branding. It makes perfect sense. The Takata website actually has some great information about the anti-submarine technology and all of that. But that's really what I wanted to say. You know, I'm rambling, but see, this is why I didn't want to type it, because I've got a lot of thoughts up here. I've thought this through. I've looked at it time and time again. I love the cool factor of a 4-point harness. I love it. Doors off, top off, big orange straps. You know, talk about an attention getter. But from the practicality of being legal, insurance problematic, and then less safe in a traditional high-speed front-end collision situation, it just wasn't worth the risk to me. I pulled out the rear bar because I didn't want that to be a safety hazard for my backseat passengers. Now, like I said, when I go off-roading, there are times where I will put those both back in, the seat harness and the harness bar. But it's up to you to make your own decision. I've shared with you what I've learned, so you know, you're on your own now. But if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. Like I said, I talked to a lot of people, and I just felt like pulling those out and going back with my stock seatbelt was the right move for me. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys later.